Good morning, everyone. This is a very important topic this morning. Um, this topic is important because I think a lot of us are not really paying attention to what's going on politically and how that may have a direct impact on our lives. We really don't pay attention to politics until it's far too late. And that's the issue. We don't pay attention to politics until it's far too late. So there are some things I understand that I'm gonna go through during this video that make sure that I bring you guys abreast to the situation at hand. Because when you're talking about topics like this, there's a level of caution I must exercise because I'm not anti anything except things that are directly affecting the Black community and it being illegal at the same time. And people don't understand that when we use the term white supremacy and that they take both sides of the argument, what that means is they can tell you that one thing is illegal and then on the same hand, make it legal. Take, for instance, when we're talking about illegal immigration. How can people come across the border illegally, be captured and detained, and then released inside of the country that they illegal cross the border on with no persecution or exportation to their own country? And this is mostly directed at countries that are south of the border, not just Mexico. We're talking about Central America and some of those northern South American countries as well. Now, some people may not think that an influx of all these new people are going to directly affect Black Americans, but I beg to differ because it has. Now, the dominant society is not going to reveal this information in any quote unquote notable, newsworthy presentation or documentary or anything of the nature. They're going to kind of give you bits and pieces that you have to put together like a jigsaw puzzle. Because we understand during the 1960s, the civil rights movement fought for equal rights and opportunities for Black Americans. What occurred, this led to significant advancements in civil rights legislation, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which aimed to address the racial discrimination and promote equal opportunities for everybody, for all Americans. Now, we understand that these legislations help improve access to education, employment, and other opportunities for Black Americans at the time. And that's essentially when Black Americans truly became the Democratic voting base and preparatory, because we have not changed it. We have always been voting Democrat, more than 80% of the population that votes. Now, when we look at the Hispanic population in the United States, which has experienced significant monumental growth over the past few decades, and we're going to walk down how we've seen these pro-illegal immigration policies and how that direct affects and correlate to Black Americans. Now, we understand that this whole democratic shift has contributed to the increase in presence of Hispanics in the job markets of those blue collar jobs, because they will have you to believe that all the jobs that Hispanics come over and render are jobs that are just kind of farming jobs, that they're just picking fruit and planting tomatoes. No, they're getting the blue skilled jobs as well. Well, some of you are saying, well, the people who got, the licenses and the certifications, they're citizens, which is false. Not all of them. Another point to point out is that a lot of the illegals, what I'm finding out is, are coming over with no skills, but they're getting taught on the job. Just as well, like myself, I used to be a second year apprentice, right? A second class apprentice. I forgot the actual terminology, but it's basically when you're with a master electrician and you're handing them tools and you're learning the tricks of the trade through their tutelage and mentorship. So if I would have stayed probably another year or two, I would have been an electrician, and then more years under my belt, more experience, master electrician, of course, with some testing as well. But you can test out to be a second year apprentice as I did, right? With very little information, except the information that you may study for and some things that you may get on the job. Because we understand that the job market dynamics are influenced by many factors, including economic trends, industry demands, and workforce demographics. So if you replace one group with another, how do you think the demographics are going to change? If you deny opportunities in jobs for Black Americans, and then you also deny them the latitude to get trained and certified with education by not giving them loans, even though they have respectful credit scores, then how do you think America will replace us? The proof is in the pudding, by illegal immigration. Now, some may not agree, and that's perfectly fine, but you cannot refute the evidence that we'll be going over here today. Okay, so let me stop the music very quickly here. Let's get into some facts. We got a good one here today. We're going to go through a lot of information because this is not bias or conjecture. I'm just going to give you the numbers, and you render your own results and conclusions based on the information provided by your United States government. Now, as you stated here, this is the U.S. Census 2000. It shows that Black Americans were about 12.3%, okay? You see whites are at 75.1%, okay? I wanted to point that out. And then I want to come all the way down here so you guys can truly understand. Let me blow this up for you. Give me a second. Nearly 48% of Hispanics identified as white alone, and about 42% reported some other race alone. About 6% of all Hispanics reported two or more races, compared with less than 2% of non-Hispanics. It states that Hispanics account for 97% of those reported some other race only. So we have elite. Now, this is from the 2000s, okay? 48% of Hispanics identified as white alone, right? Meaning, even though they are Hispanic, meaning they're mixed with the indigenous people of the land, whether it be Mexico, Guatemala, Cuba, they had indigenous people who were most likely dark, melanated, African descended people. I digress. But because of the lighter skin tone, they grouped in and put themselves on the census as white alone, right? Like your Ted Cruz's and your Marco Rubio's. This is important because when we look at the white alone numbers, that tells us that those numbers are even more flawed than we thought originally. Okay, so that's important to point out. Let me move on. Now, I want you guys to understand this. This is coming from census.gov, right? And we're going to talk about race very, very quickly. It states here, let me blow it up just a little bit more. It says white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, okay? So don't forget, Spain is in Europe. It includes people who indicate, it also includes people who are indicating that their race is white or report responses such as German, Irish, English, Italian, Lebanese, and Egyptian. We won't get on that today because, family, let me tell you, that's a whole different video. The category also includes groups such as the Polish, French, Iranian, which is Middle East, right? Because we talked about the Middle East up here. People who are Middle Eastern are considered white in America. Slavic, Cajun, and Charteron people. Now we get down to Black or African, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. Again, I like to key in on this because it's very, very important, because when you get to white, It don't talk about the white racial groups in Europe or the Middle East or North Africa. But when you get to black, it points out that the black racial groups of Africa, which essentially before modern day times, Africans didn't consider themselves black. They consider themselves their country's name, right? And which are colonialized names even today. I digress. But it states here it includes people who indicate that their race as black or African American or report responses as African American, Jamaican. I guess that Asian Jamaican is black, right? Because she said her family for generations has always been in Jamaica. So I guess she's black because she says she's Jamaican. Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, and Somali. The category also includes groups such as Ghanaian, South African. I guess Elon Musk is black. Oh, that's right, African American. That's right. Kenyan, Liberian, and Bahamian. Okay. So we don't see Hispanic on here. I just want to point that out. So now we're going to get into the numbers, right? We noticed that now this census is from essentially this year, all right, 2022, the last time they did it, that white alone percent is 75.8%. Why is this important? Because back in 2000, we pointed out that 48% of Hispanics identify as white alone. Now, when we get back to the actual numbers of things and we see this, we see that Hispanic or Latino percent is 18.9. White alone, not Hispanic or Latino, is 59.3. Now, the numbers are fudged because up here we see white alone percent. White alone percent is 75.8. And then they have to decrease a certain amount because they know Latinos are considering themselves white alone and that they're not mixed with anything else like the indigenous people of the land or even African descent. So they say white alone, then you have to further make a distinction, not Hispanic or Latino. So the white population is around 60%. Now, when we look at this family, the rest of America is mixed, right? You have Black Americans, Asians, Native Hawaiians, Hispanics, so on and so forth, makes up the other 40% of the population, okay? So all these numbers are important to what I'm getting at. Now, one story notable out of Fox News, which is hard for me to even say it, but just because of the video clip, migrants dumped in Chicago shelter could destroy Black communities. Now, we understand back in the early 70s and 80s, where Asians, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, and Chinese were also being dumped in Black neighborhoods that then again took away the corner stores and those Black-owned businesses because what started to occur is Black people stopped getting loans or their loan interest rates were too high, even though they had decent credit scores, and they allowed Asians to come in, control and operate businesses within our own community while they were practicing, some of them were practicing anti-Black hate. They was practicing Black hate the entire time. Stereotypical racial slurs, all of the above. This is just the fact because some of you experienced it just as well as I have growing up in a Black community with Asian stores, okay? But if you guys are not familiar with this, this is a sister with the backing of a Chicago community about how illegal immigrants are being dropped off in the Black community and using resources that the city is paying for that they wouldn't pay for when the Black residents of that community ask for them. Let's see if we can get this to play. Give me a second.
Our specific frustration lies in the continuous and blatant disregard for the safety and overall quality of life of Black residents, as many of these migrants have been dumped in our neighborhoods without a plan in place to monitor and house them long term. They have intentionally created barriers to impede participation in a decision-making process around the public school buildings we pay taxes to maintain, and that they unjustly close, and ignoring the community's plea to keep them open. Communication regarding meetings that have been held have been lackluster. We found out about the first meeting in South Shore via the mayor's Facebook page and by word of mouth through text messages and just people, because our community is this. We talk to each other, we are informed, and we talk to each other, bottom line. This engagement tactic is very poor, and it ultimately leaves working class and our elder constituents, because this area has a lot of elder constituents who are not on social media. That's not fair to them, but that was intentional.
They didn't want you to know, sister.
Additionally, they made capacity limits for the meeting. By the second day we found out about the meeting, it was stated that the meeting was full. So people were complaining that they didn't have access to a meeting. What kind of
fair use,
stuff
commentary
is this?
news worthy only.
All black stakeholders that have concerns should have been afforded the adequate space and notice and decision which ultimately impacts.
All right. So we kind of get the gist. They dumped off illegal immigrants inside of this black community in Chicago. And then while they was having these meetings or how they're going to fund it, where they're going to move them, they made the capacity where none of the public could come in and protest or even speak out against some of the acts that these people were actually doing. Well, again, this is all by design, because unfortunately, and we're gonna look into this, it stayed here when we're talking about DACA, right? Most Americans supported granting legal status to immigrants who came to the United States illegally as children. How you think these illegal children got into America? By their illegal parents. That's right. According to a Pew Research Center poll, 20% are opposed. In addition, a majority of people, 56% oppose expanding a wall along the U.S. border. Now, black people who was on that Democratic kick, now you guys understand why some black people are like, no, we actually need a border wall. We're not against people coming into America. We're against people who are illegally in America, and how the Democratic Party has used them as pawns and proxies in order to put them in place to replace the black face and becomes the new voter base for the Democratic Party. See, they never wanted to do the Civil Rights Act of 1963. They never wanted to do the Voting Act of 1965. So since they've done that and we became in preparatory Democratic voters, they have been using benign neglect policies ever since. And when are we going to wake the hell up as a collaborative, galvanized community that are organized, that are going to go out for our best interests? Because everybody else is. Everybody are in cahoots with their own group to better their position in this country, except for us. Because the Democratic Party, they put it right, the Congressional Black Caucus, they put it right on their websites of what they're about. They're about immigrants and replacing black people. They don't say the replacing black people part, of course, but think about it. If you're Congressional Black Caucus and there's a Hispanic caucus and there's an Asian caucus, but you're the only site that states that you're for immigrants and underserved communities, like the only underserved communities are black people, which is 1,000% false. There's poor white communities, there's poor Asian communities, there's poor Hispanic communities. So those two are underserved communities. Now, when we look at this is back in who was president in 2018? Oh, yeah, the first mixed, half black, half white president, Barack Obama. And granted, family, let me be truthful. I voted for Obama twice because I thought he was going to do something for black people specifically, like he has for other groups. Let me not point out the millions of dollars he gave to Holocaust survivors, which I am not against. But then again, when you look at what he has not done for blacks, then you wonder, what's the jig? The jig is up, okay? The jig is up. We can't keep following people who are leading us into the abyss. Now, it states here, it says, most Americans favor granting legal status to immigrants who came to the U.S. illegally as children. They said most Americans were for it. We were supporting this. That's what the information states. This is coming from our Pew Research, which is a very notable research group, okay? So let me go down here just a little bit here. I think I missed my mark here. Give me 1 second. Okay. I think that's the only thing I needed to point it out there. Let me move on. Now, if you guys are not familiar, the Dreamers Act expired last year, I think late last year. But now there's a new Dream Act of 2023. And it's been introduced, okay? And it's trying to work its way through the Senate. But here's what it states. This bill directs the Department of Homeland Security to cancel removal and grant lawful permanent resident status on a conditional basis to certain non-U.S. nationals. What non-U.S. nationals are they talking about? The Dreamers Act that was directed and specifically for Hispanics coming over from their different countries. Then you got the Dreams Act. So they're once again trying to legalize illegal immigration. Does it make any sense? Does it make any sense? Now, if you don't believe me here, the Dreams Act encompasses DACA. DHS must also do so for an individual who was granted deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, status unless the individual has engaged the conduct that would make the individual ineligible, meaning he got caught committing a crime. But I want you to think about that this particular Dreams Act encompasses dreamers as well as DACA. They said this is a one-stop shop. We're going to include it all. That's what they said. It's a one-stop shop. We're going to include it all. If I'm lying, I'm flying. But here's another thing. What about this? You know what? We have to be like one of the only countries in the world, and this is conjecture, by the way. This one excerpt is conjecture because I just don't know, but I would like to believe that people who are not citizens can't just go join the military force without becoming a citizen first. Like America's been doing this for quite some time. They will allow you to fight in the military without being a citizen. I can't wrap my mind around it, family. I just can't do it. But let me digress here. This is the congressman out of Arizona. It states that giving dreamers the opportunity to serve and in return provides a path to permanent residence. So what are you going to do if you can't find some shell of a job of construction or farming or all the blue collar jobs that illegals now take? And I'm not saying they take all the illegal jobs. I'm saying they take a great deal, especially the jobs that are going to really, really bring in bread, really bring in some moolah, some cash, some money, some skrilla, right? Those jobs like construction, plumbing, electricity, drywall, so on and so forth. Those particular jobs. Now, I would agree. I can't speak for Black Americans in total, but I can speak for my little my little entourage of people. I don't think they are, psychologically equipped to go out and pick in the fields 14 hours a day for fruit. Unless you was paying them $30, $40, $50 an hour, then they probably would. They just have to, ante up and get their things together in order to do so. But I'm showing you these legislations, and this is very recent, okay? This particular legislation, March 9th, 2023, right? Dreamers Act, February 2023. So there's no big surprise. But what's more important here, family? What's more important here? Remember last week we went over H-Res 414, the reparations bill by Cori Bush. You guys remember that? Remember we going over that has been introduced? And we saw some of the trick language that was in that. You guys remember this? Recognizing that the United States has a moral and legal obligation to provide reparations for the enslavement of Africans and its lasting harm of the lives of millions of Black people in the United States. There's already trick language when they say enslavement of Africans, but I can get the transition into Black people. It's still rough around the edges, but I can get into it, right? But you guys can go reference this for yourself, H-Res 414. Let's get into the one specific statement that can now group in Hispanics. This one term right here, whereas to meet the international legal obligations of reparations, the federal government must compensate descendants of enslaved Black people and people of African descent in the United States of America. You just grouped in everybody. Cori Bush, with this damn trick language. She didn't grouped in everybody. You didn't grouped in Caribbeans. You didn't grouped in Africans. You didn't grouped in Afro-Latinos. Think about that. Think about that. She just grouped in Afro-Latinos, family. Because what you guys are not understanding when it comes to Afro-Latinos, because Hispanics are not a race, and we're going to cover that, right? And we got to point out the extra money that Joe Biden, Kamala, Mamie Harris, you know, they just sprinkled that on top. They put a little sprinkle on top, a little more extra money for the Hispanics, right? A little legals in there. Now, granted, family, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. This is not an attack against Hispanics. No, this is an attack against illegal immigrations by the way of Latin countries, okay? So this is directly correlated with information, fact-finding by the U.S. government and the programs and policies they have in place for illegal immigrants that's coming south of the border. Let me point that out, okay? Because I have some Hispanic friends, and as far as I know, they're legal. But I just don't, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I don't know, goddamn it. I don't know. I don't know. Let me move on. Now, when I was asking the question, are Latinos the new Negro for the white dominant power structure here in America? Well, instead of giving you a bunch of I think and hypotheses and theories, I thought we should just get into the numbers, which is most important to most people, right? You want to get into the nitty gritty. It's not entertaining, it's dry at most, but numbers don't lie, especially when they're collected by the government that tells you that Hispanics are not replacing Black Americans. Well, I beg to differ. Now, when we look at history, and there's a lot to be told here. It says Hispanics or Latino 65.5%. Now, labor force participant race by race, Hispanics or Latino ethnicity. We look into Blacks, we're at 60.9%, Latinos at 65.5%. And what's important to note here, and let me find this information for you guys very quickly, so I can help you guys understand where I'm going here, right? Here we go, right here. Modern immigration wave brings 59 million to United States, driving population growth and change through 2065. And the reason why I'm stating that are Latinos the next Negro, because the way that immigration is moving and the way that they're naturalizing and citizenizing Asian Americans, the Hispanic, we're going to be a permanent underclass, but the Hispanic is going to be the new Negro, because they are, okay, the foundation that's building America now, like our ancestors used to do. They have literally replaced Black Americans in a lot of these skilled blue collar jobs. There's very few of us in these jobs because we have been pushed out. We have been pushed out. So you'll hear a lot of Hispanic Americans, illegal immigrants get on social media and say, we are the foundation of America. We built America. We did this and we did that. Yeah. You're doing it now. Okay. You're almost doing some maintenance. Yeah, you built some buildings and things of that nature. I won't take away from the work that you guys have done, but all in all, the foundation of America was built by Black Americans, descendants of American slaves. So let's point that out very, very quickly. Now, it states here, modern era immigrants and their descendants have accounted for just over half the nation's population growth and have reshaped its racial and ethnic composition. Future immigrants and their descendants will begin an even bigger source of population growth. Between 2015 and 2065, they're projected to account for 88% of the U.S. population increase, or 103 million people as the nation grows to 441 million. This is coming from Pew Research once again. Let me move on, okay? Now, look at this right here. U.S. foreign-born population reached 45 million in 2015, projected to reach 78 million by 2065. Just look at that number, how it would jump very, very significantly, okay? And we see, look at this, 2015 without 1965 to 2015 immigration, Hispanics are at 8%, family. Hispanics are at 8%. Why is this important? Because what happened in the 60s, right? When Martin Luther King went to Lyndon B. Johnson and got the Civil Rights Act passed, right? We was the majority minority. Then all of a sudden, you start seeing a lot of policies come out the Democratic Party to try to legalize illegal immigrants by hook or by crook. It really doesn't matter, right? Post 1965 immigration, the nation's racial and ethnic composition would be very different today, meaning 75% white, 14% black, 8% Hispanic, and less than 1% Asian. What is that telling you, family? What is that telling you? Because America didn't legalize all these illegal Hispanics that came south of the border. No, they did not. All the way from South America, Central America, and Mexico. No, they did not. What they did was they took an opportunity to take people who are illegally in the country and say, go and get your ID card. Go and get your green card. Go and get naturalized and you can be a U.S. citizen, even though you have committed a federal crime in the United States of America and you didn't go through any other red tape that other people have to do from other countries had to do. No, we're just going to go and let you in because we understand if we let you in, you're going to become our new voting base. They keep Democrats in power, okay? But Hispanics need to wake up too because they're going to be the next Negro, right? Because guess what they're doing now? They're allowing a lot of Asians to come inside the country, which is perfectly fine if they come in legal. I want to point that out. Asians projected to become the largest immigrant group, surpassing Hispanics. In 2015, 40% of the immigrants reside in the United States are Hispanic. In 2015, 47% of the immigrants residing in the United States are Hispanic, but as immigration from Latin America, especially Mexico, okay, has slowed in recent years, the share of the foreign-born who are Hispanic is expected to fall to 31% by 2065. Meanwhile, Asian immigrants, okay, you got a lot of Indian people that's migrating to America, Chinese people, Japanese people, Korean people who've been here quite some time, but an influx of people are now coming from these countries, right? Because they're getting all the tech jobs, supposedly. It states here that Asian immigrants are projected to make up a larger share of all immigrants, becoming the largest immigrant group by 2055 and making up 38% of the foreign-born population by 2065. It states here that Hispanics will remain a large share of the nation's overall population, okay? This is important stuff because the numbers don't lie, family. The numbers don't lie, okay? So when we get into some other numbers, and this is coming from DOL.gov, we saw talking about unemployment rates and things of that nature, right? So we have men and women here. We have white, black, Asian, and Hispanics. Now, the burnt orange is representing black people, and the red is representing Hispanics. When we get over to the bars here representing women, we see 10.9 unemployment rate for our women. So roughly 11% unemployment rate for black women. When it comes to Hispanic women, which most Hispanics, I would like to believe, okay, are traditional, 11.4% of them are unemployed. But okay, that's expected to a certain extent. When we come to men, black men are 12% in the unemployment rate compared to Hispanic men at 9.7. And yeah, some of you guys are going to point out disparities and the reason for this and for that, and with education and through historical context and the exclusion. There's really no excuses. But here's the thing. Some people may even go back to the 1960s and referred to the decline of manufacturing jobs in the United States that a lot of black people were in. There were a lot in those GM making cars, a lot of those manufacturing jobs. A lot of black people worked at the factory. A factory job back in the day was a really good job to have. But because over the decades, with the advance of modern day technology, a lot of those manufacturing jobs have been automated and have been outsourced. What do you think outsourcing is, family? Oh, cheaper labor, outsourcing. That means getting people outside of that community to fulfill those jobs. Think about that. If I have to pay you $15, $18 an hour to press this sheet metal to be flat, but I can pay this guy $5 an hour, who am I going to go with? Where my margins at, my profit? And you know what they're going to tell you? Budget cuts. We had to cut 1,000 people, but then they hire 2,000 people because they only have to pay them $3 or $5 an hour because they are illegal, as some people like to say, soften the blow a little bit, undocumented. And of course, this disproportionately affects hundreds of thousands of Black Americans who had those jobs. That people will point this out ever since the 1960s. Ever since the 1960s. But let's not forget about discrimination. Yeah, we still face discrimination in the job market. And believe me, here's another thing. Some people, when they think about discrimination, racial bias, whether it be conscious or unconscious bias, racist act, especially in the system of white supremacy, we started to think about those blatant terms of discrimination. I told you once before, and I'll tell you once again, the most white supremacists in the nation wear suits every day. They wear suits every day. Because some people think, there's out forms of racism, including, racist acts and unconscious bias and institutional barriers. What do you think institutional barriers are? Right? Implicit bias, stereotypical things that are in place of the minds of the dominant society and how they influence their buffer classes like Asian and Hispanics to have the same rhetoric they have. Because you have 48% of Hispanics who know that they are mixed with Native Americans, Aztecians, right? A lot of Mexicans are mixed with Aztec, Taino. You have all these mixes that are mixed with the Spaniard, the Native American, and also Africans, right? But they tell you, I'm Spanish. No, you're not Hispanic. You speak Spanish because you were raped, colonized, and dominated by Spain, right? So you are a mixture of different people. That's why anytime in the census record, they don't label Hispanics as a race, because Hispanics can just, I consider myself white. Huh. Okay. Well, aren't you mixed with Native American? Yeah. Aren't some of you mixed with African? Well, some of us. But why most of you consider yourselves white at 48%? Then some of you consider yourself mixed race. Then some of you consider yourself Afro-Latino, which is only like 1 or 2%. The people who cannot escape being Afro-Latina, the people who may look like me. Yes, you have Hispanics that look like me. But then they were bringing also the educational trope of things. They would state that Black Americans are less likely to have a college degree than other people in America. They would tell you that the lack of education makes it more difficult for Black Americans to compete for jobs in the knowledge economy. The knowledge economy. So is that a small trope to say Black people are stupid? Oh, that's right. We're used to that. So that doesn't work anymore. But here's the thing. When I look at all these numbers, family, they never tell you how Black Americans got in the position that they're currently in. They never tell you how. How did the Black corner stores and Black shops in the Black communities from the 70s and the 80s turned Asian in the 90s, an influx of Asian immigrants. How did Black people essentially get replaced in the workforce when we have all these illegal immigrants south of the border come in, are now being naturalized and incentivized through permanent residence by way of a green card or democratic policy like Dreamers or DACA, etc. We got to look at the Science family. And this is coming from, this particular one is coming from Social Security, okay? It states here, the Social Security Act of 1935 excluded from coverage about half the workers in the American economy. Among the excluded groups were agricultural, farming, and domestic workers, blue-collar jobs, right? Those construction jobs. A large percentage of whom were Black Americans. Policymakers in 1935 deliberately excluded Black Americans from the Social Security system because of prevailing racial bias during that period. And then at the end, they try to say it was a lie. Come on now. Come on. We've been here too long for this, family. We've been here too long. There's something else I wanted to point out here as well. I looked up back in 2005 because I really wanted to know what occurred in some of these years, even during a Republican ran president or presidential. Top 10 migration issues of 2005, right? And I came down here and I looked at all of these topics about immigration ever since 2005. And I'm like, what's significant about 2005? What's so damn significant? And I was reading that U.S. immigration reform moves forward. So I clicked on this and I started to read President Bush put immigration reform. Let me highlight this for you guys. Put immigration reform on the national agenda in January 2004 by outlining his general plans for a temporary worker program. So Republicans will have you to believe that ever since the dawn of time, we've always been about securing the border, and getting illegal immigrants out of our country, and they can find their way to citizenship legally. Well, two-term President George W. Bush said he had a plan for a temporary worker program. It's kind of like a drug dealer giving someone crack cocaine. They say, you know what? I'm just going to give you crack cocaine every day for a month. And then after that, no more crack cocaine. They're going to go find some crack cocaine, if you get what I'm getting at. They're going to go find another job. They're going to go find another opportunity. You're in America. You can get lost in America, right? Just stay away from the big cities. Just stay away from the big cities. You can get lost in America. America is majority farmland, undeveloped land. That's why we have millions of people coming here. We have Asians coming here by the boatloads. We have Afghans coming here by the boatloads, Ukrainians, so on and so forth. Everybody's coming to America. That's why you're seeing in and around your cities and your suburbs, and even some of your rural areas that are close to your suburbs and cities are being congested. And I want you to start looking at the people or listening to how the people speak and notice these people ain't American. Not saying that is wrong, family, but why are millions and thousands of people coming to America? Because they are incentivized to do so. Why aren't we using homegrown methods and tactics to educate and modernize our people for Americans can get jobs so the true Americans who lineage comes from this land can have opportunities and jobs? Because here's the thing. I've done it. I heard it. I've spoke about it. Not every Black American can be an entrepreneur. Everybody does have their own sole proprietorships. Not every single one. Not every single one of us are even mentally have the mental capacity or the work ethic, okay, or the knowledge or skill or even the motivation to become an entrepreneur. But a lot of you, you're willing to work hard. You're willing to put in extra time. You're willing to stay late. A lot of us are that way. Okay, because it's almost like saying, my family came over, and who do they work for? Right. And believe me, when I say they have replaced black people in the workforce, this is my bias. This is my conjecture. They have, according to the numbers. According to the numbers, the influx of illegal immigrants and the increase, so the increase of illegal immigrants and the increase of unemployment rate in Black America. And when we look back to 2004, 2005, we see Bush had a plan for a temporary worker program. Let me go further with it. It states here in 2006, President Bush addressed Congress and urged them to allow more than 12 million illegal immigrants to work in the United States of America. And I thought the Republicans was pro-wall, pro-border, anti-illegal immigrants. I thought that until I did the research. I'm like, no. Bush was like, hey, we got 12 million people illegally in America. Go ahead and let them work. Go ahead and let them work. Because we got some farms in Texas. We got some ranches in Texas that we got a couple of them on, and I ain't trying to get in trouble. Oh, yeah. And here's the thing. You got to go digging for the information. Bush proposes new temporary worker program. Temporary worker under the new program will be able to leave and re-enter the country at will. However, this is crazy, family. This is crazy. Again, this is nationalarchives.gov. Good old President Bush, George W. He proposed a new temporary worker program. Okay, blah. It says right here we go. Every generation of immigrants have reaffirmed the wisdom of remaining open to the talents and dreams of the world. And every generation of immigrants have reaffirmed our ability to assimilate newcomers, which is one of the defining strengths of our country. George Bush was pro-immigration as well. You low down, dirty Republicans. You're up there lying to all those Democratic black people. Oh, they racist. They hate. Wait a minute. Ho. Let's back up. President Bush states here, I appreciate the members of the citizen groups who have joined us today. Chairman of the Hispanic Alliance. Okay. Let me blow it up. I know you guys on your cell phones. The president and CEO of the Association of the Advancement of Mexican Americans, Robert de Posada, the president of the Latino Coalition, and Hector Flores, the president of LULAC. Wait a minute, President Bush. We didn't know that you was pro-immigration. We didn't know that you was pro-illegal immigration. We didn't know that. Where that happened at? It's right here. This is on the WhiteHouseArchives.gov federal government website. You know, I love this pointing out the federal government websites because people just can't argue with it. And I know that shit burns. Oh, it burns bad when people, I'm a Republican and George Bush better than president. No, here it is. He was pro-illegal immigration too, just like Obama. Well, Obama with the Dreamers Act, they let all those illegals in, and President Trump tried to come in. Whoa. I thought President Bush, he let in, 12 million. He let in 12 million illegal immigrants to work in the United States. 12 million. Good old George W. Yeah, it's not just the Democrats, family. That's the point I'm making. It's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. Now, the Republicans may have changed their stance in the past 10 years, but the damage was already done. This really started occurring in the 1930s, but it really made way in the 1960s when Lyndon B. Johnson was pretty much forced by Martin Luther King because he had the black support and the black vote. In order for them to stay in power, they had to vote Democrat. Like, well, we're gonna pass this civil rights bill, but Martin, are you guys gonna vote Democrat? Because this is large legislation right here. And of course we voted Democrat. But family, if we are truly not a monolith, then why 80+% of us is voting Democrat and we don't even know why? It's my civic duty. My ancestors bled and died for this. Not for you to be tricked, term in and term out. For Democrats to make promises to you, term in and term out. And you get a big, fat nothing burger. That's what you get. You get a big, fat nothing burger. That's what you get. Oh, yeah, that's what you get. Moving right along here, family. I'm moving right along. I got some other statistics and metrics for you guys. I hope you can stay with me. Very important. Let me find myself. Give me 1 second here. And this, again, is coming from the census.gov. Okay. There we go. In 2020, among people of Hispanic or Latino origin, 26.2 million people, 42%, identify their race as some other race alone, white. A 41.7% change from 2010. The number of Hispanics or Latino origin who identify as white alone actually decreased by 52.9, down from 26.7 million to 12.6 million over the decade. The number of people who were not of Hispanic or Latino origin who identify as white also declined at a slower rate with a negative 2.6% change. Family, when people are telling you that Hispanics are identifying themselves as white, as you notice through all the information depicted here today, that is 1,000% truth. So if you have an influx of people who are in the country illegally, and you see an increase in the Black unemployment rate, and you see an increase in the employment rate of that particular of Hispanics, you don't think that's correlating factors there? You don't believe they're connected in some way or somehow? You don't believe that? Now and again, National Library of Medicine.gov. I'm just doing it for shits and giggles at this point. It says the impact of Hispanic population growth on the outlook of African Americans, of Black Americans. We know too little about the effects of immigration on Black Americans. I do. See, this is how white society say, man, we don't know. We don't know. But you know what? Look how long this damn document is, family. Let me run through this very quick. Look at this. Look at this. It's so much information of why they don't know. This is why we don't know the impact of Hispanic population growth on the outlook of Black Americans. We don't know, but we got 30 pages to tell you why we don't know. They do know, family. They do know, because listen, and I hate to keep going back so darn far, but when we look at the 1960s, the civil rights movement fought for equal rights and opportunities for Black Americans, which led to significant and civil rights legislations, right? But what people won't tell you is that during that time, especially after civil rights, how there was a huge influx in the Hispanic population. Okay. That's one thing they're leaving out. Give me 1 second here. This says, while there are anecdotal reports of economic conflict between Black Americans and immigrants, whether Blacks living in high immigration areas feel financially pinched or blame their plight on immigrants has yet to be ascertained. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, U.S. government? What the hell are you talking about that Blacks living in high immigration areas? Wait a minute. Should I let this sister speak? Should I let her finish?
Are the value of our land, safety, and peace. We have been redlined, Jim Crow, pushed out enough.
There are many studies that have shown the adverse impact of immigration to Black communities in terms of jobs, earnings, education, healthcare, and political positioning.
So when they say that we live in these high immigration areas, no, you're dropping off the immigrants in Black communities. Okay, you're dropping off the immigrants, illegal immigrants in Black communities, and oh, that's a sanctuary city. That was done by the Democrats, Black Democrats too. And I know you guys saw that guy's hair. He didn't dye that so good. That looks nasty. But no, I digress. But this is the problem, family. Now, granted, a lot of them, they probably voted Democrat. Even though Joe Biden told them no reparations, even though Kamala Harris told them no reparations, but we're going to bring in a lot of illegal immigrants and make them citizens. Who do you think that was going to affect? Did we not learn when they brought in the Asians in the late 80s and early 90s and they took over shops within the community? They were allowed, they were incentivized. Maybe it's just me. But I know for sure when they say we're either Blacks living in high immigration areas, what the hell does that mean? Oh, because we put a lot of immigrants in your areas, so you live now in high immigration areas. Okay, I guess I get it. I guess I get it. In 1980, Hispanics, listen to this, family. In 1980, Hispanics represented 6.4% of the U.S. population. In 1990, okay, in 10 years, they rose almost 3%. The figure was 9. By 2000, the percentage of Hispanics was 12.5%. How do you think that was done? Do you get me now? So if we don't believe that illegal immigration is a problem from Black America, well, God damn it, it is. And hopefully you took some of the statistics that your government has provided to let you know that this next election is going to be the most important election you ever vote or show non-support. So Joe Biden's approval rating is down 30%. Let it get down to 50%. Let it get down to 60%. Matter of fact, if 87% of Black Americans voted for Joe Biden for president, let that shit get down to 87% until you put reparations on the table, until you replace the system of white supremacy with justice, meaning when we get killed by race soldiers or white supremacists, that they are punished to the full extent of the law, and you wipe away qualified immunity for police officers. And we need to be a protected class and receive an anti-Black hate crime bill just as well as you did the Asians. Just as well as you did these other groups have received money, funds, policies, and legislations that's pro their group. That's pro their group. Exhibit A. It's a big B and C. Because family, I showed you this the other week, last week, that there's read opportunity for Latino communities across the countries, and our reads for Black Americans and communities across the countries, but not Black communities across the countries. Economic competition from immigrants is one important cause of the shift from more livable institutional ghettos of the past to the jobless ghettos in which so many Black Americans are mirrored today. Now, family, words mean everything, and this statement is true with the exception of one word. It's not competition. Is exploitation of Black Americans, is benign neglect of Black Americans, is discriminatory acts within the business, blue collar, white collar, entrepreneurship, corporate America that's not allowing Blacks to get the same jobs that everybody else is getting. And then some people will throw in the educational trope. But if you can't get a student loan, then how can you go to school to compete with those you gave student loans to who are not freaking citizens? Yeah. You read it, right? I did a video probably about a month ago talking about how illegal immigrants not only getting driver's license and ID cards, that they can become police officers in your cities, in your towns, and in your states. They can become police officers. You got someone who's not a citizen of your country locking you up, incarcerating you, giving you tickets and fines. Tell me another country that does that. Tell me another political party that allows that. And in this case, political parties. Because as I showed, George Bush were also in cahoots with pro-illegal immigration as well. Talking about the Temporary Workers Act. Get the hell out of here. You got all these Black people here trying to get jobs. And then here's one thing. You bar them from getting jobs. You throw up barriers, roadblocks, pit holes, all these tricks that you guys do so Black Americans cannot get these jobs, so you can get people in place that look like you, with their same ideology, that even label themselves as white, but not white Anglo-Saxon from Europe, to get these jobs. Then you know that we are people, so we have to find a way of income, and then you over-police Black communities. It's almost like you have reinstated the vagrancy laws that you can't be homeless, you can't be a bum. Why you guys stand on the corner? Nigga, I don't have a job. That's why I'm standing on the corner. You go downtown and fill out them applications. Man, I've been to Burger King, I've been to City Hall, I've been A, B, 1, 2, 3. I did it all. There was a time in this country where Black people could get a job and be mentored and have on-the-job training. And as I stated you before, what I'm finding out a lot more is a lot of the illegal immigrants that come over here are working on your house, they're cutting the grass, they're doing all these different jobs. They're being trained and taught on the job. A lot of them are coming here with no skills. And the majority of the illegal immigrant women, what are they doing? They're the ones who clean your house. Yeah. They're the ones who are cleaning up in hotels. They're the ones who are cleaning up in these different government buildings. They're being hired. That used to be Black people's job. Black people used to have those jobs. And if you don't think illegal immigration is directly affecting Black America, then you the fool. And you can sit right there and do absolutely nothing. When it comes voting time, don't your dumb ass go and vote Democrat or Republican when there's nothing on the table for your people, and then cry about the situation that you're in. Yeah, maybe a lot of us should be on the road protesting and letting the world know the humane society that we've been living in for centuries. Maybe we should do that. But we know a lot of people ain't gonna do that. I gotta go to work or I gotta take out the trash. But the one thing that we can do, family, is galvanize our vote and stop bringing up all these damn excuses of why you should vote when there's nothing on the table specifically for your people, whereas though you know they've done everything else for all these other people, but our dumb ass keep going to the voter booth. If you don't vote, you don't got a voice. If you don't vote, you don't got a voice. I'm tired. I'm tired of our people saying the same dumb shit. The analogy is when you vote, your voice goes away. Why do I need you? If you voted for me, why do I need you? I'm not going to need you again for another 2 to 4 years, depending on what governmental, state legislator, or federal level of government that I'm running for. I don't need you, Black people. Have you noticed during the campaign rally, they talk to you, they talk to Black people, they come to your neighborhood, they talk to you. But soon as somebody is objective to their political policies and ask them, what are you going to do for Black people? You have people like Joe Biden state says, this is a country of immigrants. When they asked him about reparations for Black American descendants of slaves, he said, this is a country of immigrants. When they asked Kamala Harris about what are you going to do specifically for Black people, she said, anything that we do for Black people, the entire country will benefit from it. Well, let me tell you, when you guys did that anti-hate crime bill for Asians, that didn't benefit nobody but Asian people. And the congresswoman, the Asian congresswoman out of New York, you guys gave her $40 million to support that bill. I pointed that out last week too. And this right here, administration advances equity and opportunity for Latino communities across the country. This doesn't benefit Black Americans. Oh yeah, because do I need to do it right here, family? Let me point it up real quickly. Let me point it up very, very quickly. Because I really want you guys to see the trick language in this, okay? I really want you guys to see the trick language in this. Give me a second. Give me a second here. Because if you don't see it, you may not believe it. Here we go. So it's real quick. I keep showing you guys this is real quick. So as we read the title for Latino communities across the country, right? And we can kind of get into the details, but we're not going to go there. The video's already running too long in the first place. But we got to point this out because I don't want people to think that I'm anti-Latino or anti-Hispanic. No, I'm anti-illegal immigration, right? I'm against illegal immigration because I know what it does to the Black family and the Black communities around the United States of America. So when we look at this, family, it says administration advances equity and opportunity for Latino communities across the country. Fine, no big deal. You go right to the Black one. What does it say? What does it say? Advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. People like, that's not a big difference. Yeah, it is. We're talking about Latino communities across the countries, but then for Black folk, it says and communities across the countries. So it's for Black Americans. Anytime you put the word and, you are including other people, are you not? You are including other communities, are you not? Okay. And let's see if this is still highlighted from last time. It states right here, an additional $2.2 billion will go to the farmers who have suffered discriminatory by U.S. farm programs. Remember that? It says American Rescue Plan, $39 billion lifeline to help child care providers stay open to compensate early childhood educators. We're going somewhere with this. President Biden's American Rescue Plan has helped Americans, including Black Americans. Wait a minute. I thought this was for advanced equity of Black American communities across the country. No. Remember, we put in and. So we included Black Americans. You guys was an afterthought. Even though 87% of Black Americans voted for Joe Biden, he still is practicing benign neglect by, yeah, we helped Americans, and we included some Black people too. We included some Black people too. Don't you guys worry. We got the Black people. We thank you for voting me in. We helped you guys out. We appreciate that. That's what he did. There was some other information in here, fam, but I don't want to go through this again. This was in another video from last week that I pointed out that information. But that's what people will think, because people are very short-tempered and level, or not level-minded when they think about videos like this that I'm depicting and showing through governmental information on the federal level, how they have increased the policies for illegal immigration and to make them citizens. All the while, they have replaced Black Americans within the workforce. And you wonder why the Black unemployment rate has increased. And then you have, in the white supremacist society, you would think that because of those racial stereotypes that, yeah, Black people, they don't want jobs, they lazy, they the permanent underclass, they the scum of the earth, they don't want to, they look at their ghettos, look at their hoods. But they never tell you how Black people in some of those areas are the way they are. Then they will have you believe that there's no prominent Black areas, that there's no well-to-do Black areas, in which they are. I've seen them. Here in Texas, I've seen them. I've seen them in Houston. I've seen them in Cedar Hill and Garland and all these different places in America, in Texas, just as a small anecdotal example. So don't let them lie to you. Who we got in the room today? I see Sirius B. Thank you for joining the broadcast today. I appreciate that, Yo-Yo. Appreciate that. Why is it so hard to terminate DACA? Well, DACA has expired, but as I showed before, they're trying to re-implement DACA. They're trying to re-implement the DACA program by the way of the DREAMS Act of 2023. Because DACA actually, Dreamers expired last year, late last year. And then again, I pointed this out, to cancel, to stop, to forego removal and grant lawful permanent resident status on conditional basis to certain non-U.S. nationals. Okay? So that's what that's about. It says, but this was always against the law where these companies couldn't hire illegals. What is the government is not informed? Well, here's the thing. They are hiring illegals because illegals can get identification cards. And they're using their identification card numbers as their social security numbers. But, you know, Big Skinny. Coco, she said this seems more like a business than a country, really. Oh yeah, United States Corporation. This is a country. This is a business. It's all about business. She states we have Black conservatives who don't get it or won't. Oh, but here's the thing, family. Here's the thing. They do get it. They do understand. See, some of you just maybe you can't grasp the anti-Black hate that the dominant society has for us, because they benefit from the system of white supremacy, either directly or indirectly. See, some people are not believing there's a such thing such as white privilege. And white privilege doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of money. Take, for instance, the example of what's his name? Daniel Perry. Killing our brother in broad daylight on a subway, Jordan Neely, and a modern day lynching. Why is a modern day lynching? It's a modern day lynching because he got away with it. He didn't even go to jail that day. Now, because of outcry and pressure from the public, they are now charging Daniel Perry with manslaughter. Not second-degree murder, but manslaughter. They didn't even say it was involuntary or voluntary manslaughter. So even the charges are weak, paper thin. That's a modern-day lynching. And that is the system of white supremacy, regardless if he has the money or not, but he exercises white privilege. He went home that day. I can see my brother Jermaine Anderson. Thank you for moderating, sir. I do appreciate it. Coco says, I have so many arguments. I am now tired as well. Good. 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 I'm glad that black people are tired. But stay woke, goddammit. Be tired, but stay woke. Why do black communities always have to give up to give others while others do not? It's not the black communities. As you see, the Chicago community, they stepped out and stepped up front and told the dominant society, this is not what we want. But they put black people in place who are puppets to the system of white supremacy in order to do their bidding. So when black people come out with an outcry, they say, well, you have a black mayor who allowed this. Okay, like Mayor Adams of New York, like Lori Lightfoot of Chicago. Now the new guy, he's talking about freaking immigrants. So yeah. They put these black boule, butt-kissing Sambos in place. And then when you cry out as the black community and the black public, they say, well, that's a black mayor. That's a black governor. The president was black. He let a lot of these immigrants in here. But they won't tell you about George Bush, who allowed 20 million of them to stay as well. But keep on voting Democrat. Keep on voting Democrat. Big Skinny says, we have to separate ourselves from them. Like, let's quietly segregate on our own. Man, I have so much to say on that, Big Skinny, but man, I got so much to say on that. But I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna let that one go. But thank you guys for joining me here. If you're not a subscriber of Black Logic, I do encourage you to do so. I'll speak on issues that are directly correlated to our family. And I don't have any cut cards, family. I don't get nothing out of this. This is kind of just showing you how both political parties do not have our best interests at heart, but everybody else's. To check out some other videos on my channel, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. But nonetheless, these are facts. This is the truth from these governmental websites. You guys have a great and wonderful Monday. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.